Check 1 2 1 2. And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We are officially live. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Number one commentating channel on YouTube. We are back. And today we're going to be recapping UFC 296. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington was the main event. A lot of opinions on that. We'll talk about that in a bit. But there was a lot on this card as well, too. Emmett knocking out Mitchell in one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life. We'll speak on that as well, too. Patty versus Ferguson. Maybe it's time for Ferguson to retire. What's next for Patty? We'll speak about that as well, too. I made a video on both fighters as of recent, so maybe you guys can go check that out and leave a comment over there. Shavkat versus Thompson. Shavkat gets a submission win, and he continues his 100% finish rate. Pantoja versus Royval. Frustrating fight for a few reasons. I'll explain why, at least for me, as far as spectating it. And then, yes, last but not least, we'll be talking about Edwards versus Covington. And let me just quickly say, before we cover that fight, we'll leave that for a little bit later. I called it. You saw the thumbnail. I said exactly how it would go. I said unanimous decision. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Leon gets to finish. And I think if Colby was more aggressive, that could have potentially been the case. But nonetheless, I said a unanimous decision for Leon Edwards, and he gets the job done. So we'll talk about that all in a bit. Let's first catch up with chat and see what you guys have to say. And also as well, too, 267-545-8096 if you want to call in and share your thoughts on UFC 296 and how you felt about the whole card in general. Feel free to leave a voicemail, and then I'll go back to it, and I will play it live on stream and react to it. Let me know. You guys like Edwards' performance? Did you guys hate Colby Covington for performing in the fashion in which he did? Did the press conference have anything to do with it? Did it apply some pressure to Colby and not only Leon? Let me know. Jesus in the building in the chat says, saludos, boring fights. The card overall, yeah, I would give it maybe a 5 out of 10 at most, and that's largely due to Emmett getting the knockout and Edwards dominating Colby, but it was kind of a boring card nonetheless. I guess I could agree with you there, and maybe we're spoiled, but I guess I would call it boring because Pantoja versus Royval in a sense was not the most entertaining. There were some good moments, but yes, overall, I would agree with you. Even Shavkat versus Stephen Thompson, I would have wanted. Of course, we want to see more of a back and forth war, and that's not what we got. But I understand why Shavkat went for the finish and why he chose to grapple. We'll talk about the card overall in a bit as well, too. Jesus says, Leon versus Colby was boring. Thompson didn't give Shavkat much of a fight. In the first round, he did a decent job, at least we can say. He did a decent job of slowing him down, slowing the takedowns, and just kind of nullifying what Shavkat was trying to do. But then as the fight progressed, he just simply couldn't stop the takedowns, couldn't stop the ground control, and it was just a little bit boring. I'll admit. Let's start with the first fight of the main event. Again, guys, 267-545-8096 if you want to share your thoughts on how you felt about the card overall. Let's quickly talk about Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell, guys. I mean, it was one of the craziest fights that I've ever seen as far as knockouts. Bryce Mitchell, he spoke about the fight afterwards, and it was a tough knockout. Even if it was Colby, I would have been like, damn, this is tough to watch as far as like the response. I've never seen anyone twitch and have a seizure the way that Bryce Mitchell did. If you guys caught the fight live, and if you guys notice as well too, even in the live feed as far as the UFC and the pay-per-view, they panned that camera quick, took it off Bryce Mitchell once he started twitching, and you didn't see them show Bryce Mitchell on the canvas anymore. He stayed on the canvas for about 3 to 5 minutes. Didn't look all the way there. You heard Joe Rogan, and we don't see this often, but you heard Joe Rogan saying, hey, he shouldn't even be standing. They should hold him up. He's going to blow out his knee if someone doesn't help him. That's how much he was not all the way there. I said prior to the fight, listen, Bryce Mitchell has to do one thing and one thing only: avoid the overhand right. I said it over and over and over again. Avoid the overhand right. If you do that, you'll win the fight. You'll take him to the ground. You'll get some ground control, some ground and pound, maybe even a submission. Emmett hasn't looked the best as of recent. You've seen the fight against Topuria, the fight against Yair Rodriguez, where that's what he was, in a sense, spamming. Overhand right that he just simply couldn't land. And maybe I just made it too simplistic, and maybe it's unfair in saying that that's all that Bryce Mitchell has to avoid. And he wasn't able to. Got caught with a monstrous right hand over the top, and it slumped him immediately. It might have even been worse than the Bobby Green, Jalen Turner knockout, as crazy as that might sound. I don't know if that's a little bit of a stretch. Maybe you guys could tell me if you guys agree or not, but that overhand right, and I remember someone saying in chat, I think it was Beta, he was like, he should have took the Bible with him in there. Jesus. Listen, that overhand right that landed right on his chin, we have to talk about. I know it might sound a little bit premeditated. Of course, it's the Monday after the pay-per-view. Is Mitchell gonna be the same? Will Mitchell return as the same fighter? Maybe he takes some time off. I think minimum he should take off at least a year. At least minimum. Maybe more. But we got to start talking about whether he will ever become a threat in the featherweight division. When you get knocked out like that, most of the time you don't come back the same. And that's what worries me for Bryce Mitchell. And if you guys remember the discussion, I made a clip of it on the channel as well too. I told Trey, listen, he's not top 5 material. Josh Emmett is number 6. He might beat Josh Emmett, make his way up to the top 5 rankings, but that's it. Or even take the 6th spot. He's not top 5 material. And I hate to sound like a hater, but I just think when he relies on his jiu-jitsu and his takedowns, you start fighting the upper echelon. Maybe he could be a Brian Ortega. Who the hell knows where he's at? Maybe he could be a Brian Ortega. I just don't see him beating Yair Rodriguez, Max Holloway, Volkanovski, Topuria, who he already lost to. We picked Topuria to win. But unless he showed me some immense improvement against Emmett, then I would have said, you know what? Maybe he has a chance to sneak up into the top 5. But he gets caught with the right hand that I think worse than the Bobby Green knockout. Granted, Bobby Green took too much punishment after the knockout, where Mitchell, at least it was a one shot. He's down, he's out. Perhaps he could return. Perhaps his chin is not compromised. We've seen Pereira get knocked out cold against Adesanya, and he was able to come back. Maybe going up in weight helped him, but he was able to come back and fight Jan Blachowicz. He was able to come back and fight for the title against against Jiri Prohaska. And his chin doesn't look compromised. But Bryce Mitchell, and the way that he got knocked out, twitching the way in which he did, where he couldn't even walk out of the octagon by himself, he might not come back the same. Let's catch up with chat. Eddie Rodriguez in the building. What's up, Eddie? Teron Brown in the building as well, too. I don't know why I'm reading backwards, so let's go all the way to the top, work our way down. Ask any questions in the chat, and I'll make sure I read them, and I'll make sure I reply. Jesus M says, Thompson didn't give Shavkat much of a fight. Shavkat versus Burns or Brady? Good question. Good question. Let's look at here real quick. I'll turn on my camera. Let's look out here. Shavkat beats Stephen Thompson right above him. Should he fight Burns or Brady? The grappling exchanges maybe between Brady and Rachmanov will be interesting. I don't think he should get the title shot next. We'll talk about Bilal and Shavkat in a bit, but and who deserves a title shot, which was pretty crazy because before I even do that, I couldn't believe my eyes where I was completely wrong in this sense. I thought to myself, when I make this poll, majority of the people are gonna choose Bilal. I was baffled, to answer your question, Jesus. I'll get right to it, but Shavkat Rachmanov 58%, Bilal 38%. Do people really hate Bilal that much? The guy was a backup and he weighed in to fight for the title. He's on a crazy winning streak. he probably deserved the title shot 2-3 fights ago. But interestingly enough, Leon Edwards himself said, listen, I won 10 fights in a row and I didn't get the title shot. Why does Bilal deserve it? So that's an interesting question. I like the Shavkat versus Burns fight more than the Shavkat versus Brady, but Brady did come off an impressive win, so I wouldn't mind seeing that, Jesus. Teron Brown, how you doing today, bro? Pantoja style is bad for the division, says Beta Quest. Beta Quest, good morning to you, the DC Fight Club member with the gold glove. Now, guys, remember, you could become a member, and it helps out the channel immensely. Beta, thank you for the support for over 2 years, man. He's gonna put that division in jeopardy. Let's go to that division as well, too. I like the style of, for example, of Kai Kara France. You see him right here. Pantoja won, but it isn't the most entertaining. I'll agree with you. Maybe Albazi gets a shot next. Maybe at least you can say Moreno was entertaining, but you might have a point. You might have a point as far as his style, the taking Brandon Royval down over and over again and kind of just attaining some ground control time makes it a little bit boring. I was very frustrated with Royval's performance. We'll talk about that in a bit. It just reminded me of Rob Font versus Corey Sandhagen, where Rob Font just couldn't stop the takedowns, where it sucks because if he was able to do so, a striking match between Corey Sandhagen and Rob Font would have been a fun one to watch. But these fighters, if you can't stop the takedowns, fighters are going to use it. Josh Emmett versus Sadiq Youssef next, Tehran. That's not a bad one as well too. Good win for Emmett, right? Bryce Mitchell versus Brian T. City. I don't think he loses to Emmett and then fights a number 3 ranked opponent, Tehran. So I doubt that's the case. I don't know what they do with him next, but I think he's gonna fight down. I don't think he'll fight up after that performance, unless it's like maybe like a Evloev or a Giga. A Cater, but I don't think he fights up after losing in the fashion in which he did. It's crazy because he's one above Barbosa, who he has beaten before. And he beat Ige, but it was a close fight. Listen, I don't know what you do next with Bryce Mitchell. I don't even think we start to ponder of what we do next with Mitchell. What we do next is say, you take a year off, you start farming some crops, you start taking care of your family, and you go to the country life like you love, and start growing some plants and some food, and you just do that for a year. You don't even think about fighting, because that knockout was one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. Eddie in the building. What's up, Eddie? Welcome to the stream. He's fine now, so I can say it was awesome, says Beta Quest. Teron Brown says Mitchell was a fool to try and stand with Emmett. Should took him down. Emmett was better on the feet. I got a response to that. I wish I recorded the clip of Bryce Mitchell saying, he spoke after the fight. It's on MMA Talk, where Bryce Mitchell just basically explains, I didn't fight aggressive. I didn't have a good game plan. I tried to kind of keep at range and not let him land his shot, and that's essentially what he did. He should have been way more aggressive and not in the striking department. As soon as he heard the bell do that, he probably should have just started spamming takedowns just to see how Emmett will respond, because he threw like, I think it was a straight jab out of the southpaw stance where Emmett slipped and landed that big right hand over the top. You can't fight scared in there. And I'm not saying he was scared, but he fought a little bit hesitant and he wasn't aggressive. And for that reason, he got caught. I don't know if that has to do with the way Topuria dominated him in the past. I don't know if that has to do with his prior fights where, remember, he lost to Topuria and now he lost to Emmett. But with Ige, maybe he felt he could stand in there with Emmett. But I do think it was a mistake in the way he approached the fight, and he paid for it. Let me catch up. Menefield versus who next? He gets a dub as well too. I don't know what you do with Menefield. A decent win. It was pretty close. Jacoby did a decent job. He just kept getting hurt every round, where you could say it seemed like he was winning each round, and until he got caught. And because he got caught, maybe that swayed the judges a bit, because I don't know what you do with him next. Menefield looked pretty decent at number 14. There's there's an Azamat fight up there. There's a Ryan Spann. Anthony Smith is still number 10 somehow. Listen, Anthony Smith needs to hang it up, but I don't mean to get distracted. But with Menefield, let's see what they do next for him. I wasn't totally impressed with his performance, Jesus. Tehran says it was worse than the Green knockout. I agree. Tehran also says, in my opinion, Ferguson only lost the fight against Patty simply because he couldn't stop the takedowns. If the fight would have stayed standing, Ferguson would have won because he was tagging Patty. I thought he was winning the first round. I thought he was ahead until about the last minute, the last 45 seconds. But I don't know if I agree with you that he would have won if he kept it standing. The reason why, again, don't mean to sound like a Tony Ferguson hater. I made a video about him previously. You guys could go check out. The problem with Ferguson is this. When Ferguson and Patty were striking, where I thought Ferguson was ahead, I agree with you, at least in the beginning. When Patty landed some shots, they were way more significant than what Tony landed. Tony had no pop behind his punches. I don't know if that is because you could give credit to Patty, maybe being the bigger fighter, the younger fighter. I just didn't see no pop behind his punches. I saw a lazy jab. I saw some punches where he wouldn't commit to. I don't know if it was being scared of because his chin has looked compromised prior. I don't know if it was a little bit of that, but I don't know if he would have won a standing, even a striking match against Patty. Patty had some good kicks to the body. Patty had some good leg kicks and some significant right hands over the top. I simply think his chin is compromised. The expiration date has finally come for Ferguson as far as if you guys remember, and I mentioned this before in the video too, Ferguson was the type of guy to take 2 punches and take 3 to land his one because his one shot would be way more significant. He can't do that anymore. That's just not who he is. And as sad as it sounds, I hate to say it, but he's just not the same fighter as he was once before. And he maybe should have retired 4 fights ago. And the sad thing is that I don't think he retires. Can't wait to talk about the Leon fight as well too. With that being, I hope Ferguson retires, but I know he won't. I think he fights one more time, Tehran. I think maybe he fights at UFC 300. If I had to guess, I wouldn't be surprised. They give him like not a tune-up fight, but like a fight that he could go out with a bang, and then he retires. And maybe I think it's a psychological thing too. I think in his mind, he can't go riding off into the sunset unless he gets at least one more win. I hope he does retire, but I doubt it. He does too. So I agree with you. Beta says, I agree, Tehran. Patty still didn't look great against an aging Tony who needs to retire. You guys know from previous streams, I'm not the biggest Patty fan. I'm not even a fan. But I did like what I saw. The patience where he would land some shots. I thought the kicks to the body looked pretty strong for Patty, and the leg kicks. He was maybe trying to implement something new. I liked his performance. And I'm not going to say even more, but I did like the way he carried himself in the press conference before the fight and the post-fight interview after the fight. Because he wasn't a likable character, at least to me. He has a bunch of fans. But to me, after that Jared Gordon fight, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be pretty sweet to see this guy humbled? Because he said, that wasn't close. Remember, I'm a Scouser. That wasn't close when he was talking to Joe Rogan. Horrible impression. But I just think he wasn't likable. I just thought to myself, listen, I would love to see him get humbled. I think he was. I think he read a bunch of the comments. I think he saw that people didn't like how he didn't say the fight was close. And he changed his tune. In interviews prior to this fight at UFC 296, he says, you know what? I can understand why people thought the fight was close. So I give him credit for being honest, and I thought it was a decent performance. Also, let me give me 1 second. Let me just quickly write what's next for Leon. I would also like to add this question in the chat, Bilal Muhammad, real quick, or someone as we lead up to the rest of the stream. So my bad, I should have added that earlier, but let's continue reading through chat and having a good back and forth. Thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Helps the channel immensely. 267-545-8096. If you want to leave your voicemail with your thoughts on Leon and Kobe's performance, or just UFC 296 overall. And remember, you could become a member. Helps the channel immensely. Thank you for the loyal members in the chat today. Like, I see Curtis Williams in there. We'll get to your comment in a second. Let me try to go in order. Tehran says, the striking exchanges was very entertaining between Patty and Ferguson, which they would say. Good point, though. They were entertaining. They were interesting. Although Patty landed the more significant shots, who knows what would have happened if Ferguson. Oh, another point I didn't mention as well, too. You bring up a good point, because I think you can say Patty looked a little bit tired in the third round, where if he wasn't able to take Ferguson down, who knows what would have happened? Or maybe the training with the Goggins Hell Week thing, maybe that would have been beneficial in the third round. He just simply couldn't stop the takedowns. Who knows what would have happened? So good point. Kind of reminded me of Gilbert Burns versus Hamzat in the third round of their fight, or even Usman and Hamzat, where these young fighters, these explosive fighters like Paddy Pimblett, like Hamzat, the biggest question mark that they have is their gas tank. What if they could fight a 4 or 5 round fight, or get up to the 4th or 5th round if they had to do so? I don't know if Paddy's able to do that. And against the rankings, I don't think he beats anyone in the top 10 as of now. I'm quickly looking over it as we speak, but I don't think he measures up against even Dan Hooker. I think Hooker beats Paddy Pimblett. I don't think he beats anyone in the top 10 or in the top 15. A good win overall, but his gas tank is questionable. He's a big lightweight, and maybe that has something to do with it. Pantoja's style is survival chain grappling. If he can't score the knockdown in the first 7 minutes, and speaking of gas tanks, he was getting winded as well too. Where if Royval, it was so frustrating to watch, because if Royval, just like Ferguson, was able to nullify the takedowns, we have a whole different fight. In that 5th round, Royval was landing consecutive jabs at will, where Pantoja was kind of, taunting him to, continue striking. But at the end of the day, he got taken down. And that's very frustrating to see as a fan, is fighters that can't stop the takedowns just so we can see what happens striking. As you see one fighter diminish and the momentum changing, these fighters simply can't stop the takedowns. Teron says Ferguson already broke his silence since his 296 loss. He said he isn't retired. Yeah, I saw the headlines where he says, what did he say? I read it not too long ago. It was in a story on Instagram. If you could refresh my memory. Curtis Williams with the gold glove. Thank you for being a member, man, for supporting. Curtis Williams has been rocking with me for years. He says, lost my money listening to Trey. He was so convincing. Let me say this. I can't wait. We're going to be answering live calls at 7 p.m. Trey's going to be here. And if you guys want to call in, you guys got to join the Discord. But if you guys want to call in, I totally spelled that wrong, and have a back and forth with Trey, I'm just going to sit back and let him try to explain himself. That'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern. Curtis, I may sound like a broken record. I have told people, if you want to make a living sports betting, if you want to make a ton of money, it's pretty simple. You hear Trey talk about who he's picking and in what fashion they win. You pick the exact opposite and you make a ton of money. I've been telling him since, about the Derrick Lewis thing. He picked Usman to beat Leon. He picked Colby to beat Leon. There's just, man, if I were to go down the list of all the fights that Trey picked wrong, it's just Tuivasa against, I think, Cyril Gane. Ton of fights. I'm not even going to break my mind trying to think of all the fights. If you pick the opposite fights of what Trey has picked, you'll make a ton of money. So he sounds convincing. I'll give you that. You're correct. But his percentage of wins has to be terrible. His antics crack me up. He'll be here at 7 p.m. Patty was drained. That last takedown saved him. Yeah. Who knows what would have happened if Ferguson starts coming forward, landing some elbows. Even Ferguson, while he got taken down, landed some nice elbows from the bottom. They say Patty was an inch shorter than Tony, but he looked taller than Tony in the cage, and he looked massive. Ferguson looked old. It's time to hang it up, even though he's not going to. Ferguson versus Hooker, UFC 300. He'll probably lose that fight as well, too. But that's a fight that not necessarily I want to see, but I wouldn't be mad at. If Ferguson's going to fight, at least give him Hooker. It's a potentially a winnable fight. Patty made Ferguson look like midget in the octagon. Yeah, Ferguson looked small. I agree with what you said to Miller. Patty's strikes were more powerful. Tony Ferguson's punches didn't phase him. He walked right through them. There were moments that Ferguson would throw the jab, and you know how you're supposed to jab, bring it back to your chin? I don't know if it's because he was old, if it probably has to do with that. But his jab would, like, he'll throw it and he'll just take so long to bring his hand back up to his chin. Like he looked a little bit lazy. And this is not the Ferguson that we grew up watching, right? He's just a different fighter and he's not the same as before. And there's no hate. It's just Father Time has caught up with him. Let's talk a little bit about Shavkat versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Shavkat gets the win. And I couldn't believe my eyes. And then we'll talk about Leon versus Covington next. I couldn't believe my eyes, but again, guys, is this wrong? Is this just flat out wrong? Bilal Muhammad being voted less than Shavkat to get the title shot next? There's something playing in the chat. I don't know what's happening. Hold on. I see that going off. What's going on? Oh, careful with that. What's going off in I think we're good now, right? Did I press a button by mistake? I might have. I don't know what was going off in the background, but Bilal Muhammad, he deserves the fight on paper, right? Why are people so against it? Do you guys want Bilal? Like maybe these are casuals voting. Maybe because he got a submission win that merits him getting a title shot? Or is there someone else out there in the rankings in the UFC that deserves a shot over Bilal and Shavkat? We have Gilbert Burns at number 4. We have Kamaru Usman at number 1. That's not going to happen. Colby's not going to get the rematch. Stephen Thompson's coming off a loss. Brady's coming off a win, but he's not going to get the shot, right? Gary, maybe if he would have won, who knows? They probably would have gave it to him because he's a ticket seller, right? He's a draw now. People want to see him fight. Gary fighting Neil, though, in the future. You saw Kevin Holland fighting MVP, so that's not going to happen. What's the next fight for Leon? And the disrespect that we saw as well, too. Let me quickly bring this up. Why are people disrespecting my boy Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad? I don't know if you guys can see that, but it reads, Dana White just announced Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad 2 as a main event for UFC 300. And they write, here is the venue. I can't wait to talk about Leon, guys, because I'm going to go off on a rant on what I have to say about Leon Edwards. And you guys, I might sound like a fanboy. Disclaimer. I'm letting you guys know ahead of time. Ferguson fighting Hooker, he won't have to worry about takedowns. True. And potentially he does something in the striking department to win. Maybe you have to make that a 5-round fight to benefit Ferguson as well. Wonderboy didn't even try in that fight. I thought he tried. I thought he just couldn't stop the takedowns in the second round. In the first round, I thought he did decent. Bilal should be next, says Tehran. I agree 100%. Hollywood Hito says, welterweight division died on Saturday. We're having a fun stream. Hito, don't come in this channel and start to become a hater, all right? Hito is the biggest Leon Edwards hater. Why that is, I don't know. I think Leon is the next best thing since sliced bread as far as the skill that he has. I think he's that good. Again, disclaimer, it's going to sound like a rant and it's going to sound like a fanboy. Leon Edwards is the best thing that happened to the welterweight division. And the best thing was that he landed that head kick against Usman. Because if not, maybe Usman still has the title and Colby Covington never would have fought for the title. But let's talk about Shavkat a little bit before and Bilal and who gets the title shot next. What would I like to see? Personally, give Bilal the shot. He deserves it. Is he entertaining? Is he charismatic? Does he sell more tickets than Colby Covington versus Leon? No. But I'll tell you this, and maybe this is a hot take, it's a more entertaining fight. Does that sound crazy? Bilal being a more entertaining fight than Colby Covington? Maybe before UFC 296, we can say, hell no. But now that we saw UFC 296, Colby Covington has to be criticized for why that fight was boring. I'll explain why in a bit, but it's Colby Covington's fault. Bilal fighting Leon Edwards is going to be more entertaining in the octagon. Again, it doesn't sell as many tickets, but at least Bilal is going to go in there to win the fight. Covington didn't go in there to win the fight. Covington didn't start fighting to round number 3. It was 10 minutes of him not doing anything. Granted, Leon might be right in saying that, listen, it was me switching stances, keeping range, making him pay that made him hesitant. And maybe the 600 plus days of a layoff for Colby Covington had to do with him not being able to get going early in the fight. Nonetheless, Bilal deserves a shot. 100% deserves a shot. Maybe, just maybe, this is the venue if they do fight. Maybe, what does it say? I am a registered prelim offender. I think they put the disrespect for Bilal is wild. I'll give you that. At the end of the day, he deserves a title shot next. I would like to see it. I know that's me speaking as a diehard fan. I would like to see Bilal versus Leon next. I think Leon wins. I think Leon beats Bilal, and then maybe Shavkat gets a fight next after he gets maybe one more fight in before the main event. But I don't think Leon is beatable from anybody in the welterweight division right now. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's catch up with chat. Bilal should be next, says Tehran. Welterweight division die Saturday, says Hito. Tool says Bilal next. Shavkat gets winner and hope Jeff Neal KOs Gary. Neal is a tough fight. Didn't plan to talk about this. Tool. Welcome to the stream. Neal is a tough fight for Gary. Neal was a tough fight for Shavkat. The way Neal fights on a good night, he could beat almost anyone in the division. Can't wait for that fight to happen. Maybe, just maybe. And it's not Gary's fault that he caught pneumonia. I mean, even though that's a little bit questionable, he was making comments like, I fear for my family. Prior to UFC 296, there were rumors that he might not even show up for the press conference. And I have no sympathy in that sense, because although his personal life is in the public eye and that's not fair and no one likes that, I would hate that for anybody, maybe except for Ian Gary. The reason I say that is because he was willing, he was okay with the mugshot on the t-shirt. Remember, he was selling that. He was okay with calling Neil Magny a bad father and blowing it out of proportion while Neil Magny was in a custodial fight. If you're willing to stoop that low, I can't feel bad for you. If it was anybody else, I will feel bad. For Gary, I don't. And you might be right. Jeff Neal might just starch him. Jeff Neal is a tough fight for anyone. Now, Ian Gary is, at the end of the day, no matter what we say, he is skilled. He is talented, and striking wise, he's good. And I don't know if Jeff Neal will beat him as well either, because maybe against a Sean Brady might be a very tough fight for Gary as far as the mixing the takedowns, and maybe we get that fight. You saw him call him out. Wouldn't mind seeing that, but Jeff Neal is a good fight. It's a good test for Ian Gary. Tehran says, after we get done covering 296, can we talk about 299, at least preview it? Absolutely, Tehran Brown. Absolutely. Thank you for suggesting that. Hollywood Hito with the red glove says, Dana might give the Leon versus Bilal to the illegal streamers. This hate needs to stop, Hito. You have hate in your heart, and you need to pray that out of you. Tehran says, Covington talked all crap that at the press conference, but couldn't back it up last Saturday. We're about to talk about that in a bit. Left a short voicemail. Forgot to say to Hito, get that poor Dana talk out of here. The poor almost billionaire doesn't get to suck his daddy off with a fighter who worships Trump. Big Vin says, I'm going to play it right after these messages. Beta. Big Vin says, as long as Cut Gary loses, I'm happy. What's up, Big Vince? Gary's still hated, man. It's crazy because Gary should have never caught pneumonia. I know he couldn't have helped that, but with what Covington said of Leon at that press conference, I think the attention would have, and before that, the attention would have been greatly on Gary. But Covington was so hated or so disliked, even by his own fans, after mentioning Leon's deceased father, that I think Gary would have just kind of like been okay hiding in the shadows. But now when he comes back, it's back to people calling him Ian Cut Gary, and people are going to still wish for him to lose. Dude is a McGregor wannabe weirdo who's hypocritical. He has quoted McGregor so many times. I'm not here to take part. I'm here to take over. He does corny things like that. I got to stop trying these impressions because I'm horrible at it. I don't know why I even tried. But he's not lying, though. Leon versus Bilal at the Performance Center. This disrespect needs to stop. And it doesn't. I'm just joking. I understand why people hate that fight. But listen, if rankings matter, if we want to keep the integrity of the sport, I feel like that fight needs to happen next. 267-545-8096 if you want to share your thoughts. Let's play the first voicemail of the making sure everything is plugged, of the morning, or afternoon, I should say. Maybe morning for some of you guys out there. Let's play with the first voicemail, and then after that, we'll talk about Leon versus Colby and what that fight means and what happened. Here we go. First voicemail of the afternoon.
All right, listen
And I hear
up. Hito, I'm just going to address you directly. For making it sound like I'm a Bilal fan, I should be hurt by you. Like, Et tu Brute style, just disappointed in how you think I would say such a thing. I'm only talking about a meritocracy. You know, the thing this is all supposed to be built on, supposed to be built on.
I got to take advantage of this. I'm sorry to pause the voicemail, but it's not often that I could say to Beta, good take. And he mentioned the word meritocracy. You're right, Beta. If there's any kind of meritocracy in the rankings, or if the rankings matter at all, and if we want to keep the integrity of the sport, we have to give Bilal that fight next. So good point from Beta. I don't get to say that often.
Who's the best? Where the rankings at, right? Bilal deserves a shot. Now, can he sell his way into a title shot? No. No way in hell. But, you know, across the pond, it doesn't matter who it is. As long as there's a champion, they'll show up. So, you know, maybe we should give the pita bread from Sausage Party a chance. Okay? Hollywood Hito, give him a chance. He may not win, but at least he got the shot. I don't care if nobody watches. Just get it out the way so we can move on to better things. And also, while we're on the topic of who's next in a welterweight.
The disrespect, what he was referring to as far as the Sausage Party, pita bread. Yes, Bilal does look just like this guy. So good reference from Beta. Yet again, he's 2 for 2. Let's get right back to it.
If Bilal doesn't get it, they should give him Colby, because at least then the presser would be interesting.
Ooh, I didn't mention that as well either. If you don't give Bilal the shot, give him Colby. Let me ask you guys this as well too. If you're Bilal, what do you do? I know if you're offered the Leon fight, that's what you essentially want to take. But let's hypothetically say that Dana White, Bilal, Hunter, they all talk, and maybe Bilal knows he's not getting the title shot next, but he's promised, hey, you beat Colby, you get the shot next. Are you doing that, or are you trying to sit out and wait? Because you're going to get a big payday. Colby and Bilal's going to sell, and Bilal maybe versus anyone else doesn't sell. And if you beat Leon, then Colby probably doesn't get the shot, and you may never get that fight. I might take that gamble, and if I'm offered Colby beating Bilal, I fight him. I beat him, then I fight Leon, and I make a ton of money. Because you lose to Leon, you're back to the drawing board, and you're probably going to get Beneil Dariush. By that, I mean you lose to Leon, not even that, because Beneil didn't get the shot, so that's almost a bad reference. But no, that's actually a good reference. What am I talking about? That's a great reference. You lose to Colby, and then you never fight for the title again. So it is a gamble, but I'm taking that risk. Sell a bunch of tickets. You beat Colby, who you have beef with. You become more of a star, or you become a star maybe, because most people don't think you're a draw, a ticket seller. I would probably do that. I didn't even think of Bilal versus Colby. So once again, 3 for 3. Or Beta Quest. He must have ate his Wheaties today. I think he drank a white Gatorade or something, because Beta's on point today. Let's see what else he has to say.
What else do I got? Yeah, so much for that dragon energy. I just want to say that. I hope y'all are having fun. Remember, it's Boppy.
They say there's a first time for everything. And Beta hit a home run as far as he's 3 for 3 with his points today. I got to agree with him. And basically everything he said, as crazy as it sounds. Hollywood Hito with the red glove says, Beta, if you had a promotion full of Leon Edwards, you would see the fastest bankruptcy case of all time. Tool says, I was going for Colby until he talked about Leon's dad. That's the case for a lot of people. Gary has a KO coming from Neil. Neil has nasty hands of steel, and he has a good chin as well too. Back to the Leon dad comment. I don't think you're the only one. I think there were many out there. If you read the comment threads or Reddits, there were plenty of people saying, listen, you know what? I was with Colby until this. He really took it too far. And that whole character of being the villain, there's a limit. Chael Sonnen, I mentioned that in the previous video as well too. He was a bad guy. He was a villain, but he was charismatic. He was witty with his trash talking. But I don't think he ever took it that far. And I don't think he ever said anything that distasteful. Yeah, he said that he would smack Sylvan's wife's bottom, right? And tell her to make him a steak, medium rare, just like he likes it, right? Funny. Maybe taking it a little bit too far, mentioning the wife or whatever. But he wasn't talking about a dead person. Maybe, what can you say is more atrocious or worse than that? That was just a bit too far for anybody. Even if it's true, where I think there's a little bit of exaggeration, even if it's true that Leon Edwards' dad wasn't a good guy, at the end of the day, you don't disrespect the dad, and not only that, you don't bear the sins of the father on the son. That's not Leon's fault. That maybe if his dad was maybe not the best person before he passed or whatever, to talk about someone's father is flat out disgusting. That's dead. And then on top of that, you double, triple down and say he was in the 7th layer of hell. Like, geez, I mean, I know you're playing a character, but listen, you're too far gone, man. If you're doing that for money, you're kind of a trashy person. Maybe John Jones was right. John Jones talks about Kobe and says that, listen, he's a terrible person. And that's coming from John Jones, who has crashed into cars that had pregnant people in the car and just takes off. Not that he knew that there was a pregnant person in there. Nonetheless, if that's coming from John Jones and if he genuinely feels that way, that says a lot. I think Neil's going to crack that chin against Gary and put him out cold, says Tehran. You might be right, and people are hoping on that. You're forgetting one thing, Hito, says Beta. The English are going to ride for their champ. Doesn't matter who it is. True. What if Leon goes up in weight and gets a shot at Strickland or Duplessis? Duplessis might be a tough fight. Now they have Aspen on Leon as well, too, or they remain having that. They could have a big card over there, even if it's Bilal. Stop using big words. The meritocracy thing, I guess. I don't know if I should be offended or not, says Hollywood Hito. Big Vince says, Bilal, in all honesty, should have got the title shot Saturday. Absolutely. We were saying that as well, too. He should have got the title shot on Saturday instead of Kobe. Kobe, what is he, coming off a win against Masvidal? And that's how he gets a shot? Kobe Covington losing twice already for the title? Now 3 times? I don't think he ever fights for the title again. What was his last best win? Tyron Woodley in 2020? Robbie Lawler in 2019? I mean, he didn't deserve the shot in the first place. I understand why the UFC did it. And good for Leon for getting the win, but let's be honest, he didn't deserve the shot. I agree with you. Let's catch up with chat a bit more here. Give me 1 second. Just fixing up something. All right, cool. Kobe is washed, unfortunately, says Big Vince. That's another question, another topic of discussion that we could have. Maybe Kobe is just not the same fighter that he was once before, because we know him for the pace that he sets. We know him for being an aggressive fighter. We know him from the opening bell. He presses forward, and he wasn't able to do that at all. Maybe that's credit to Leon. We'll talk about that in a bit. To be fair, Civil's wife does have... To me, it was funny. To me, it was a funny comment. You know, it's witty. I had to laugh at it. Leon's dad is in heaven. All gangsters go to heaven, says Tutu. Well, Buddy's dad was a sex trafficker. I hope he's riding in hell. I don't know if that's true, though, Big Vince. Maybe someone could verify. I don't know if that's verified. I think he was part of a gang, but I don't think that was the case. So, and if that's not true, to make that story up is crazy. If it is true, that is crazy. But even then, you don't put the sins of the father on the son. And maybe you just keep that to yourself. I think. I don't know. Like, that's the way I feel about the situation. But you guys let me know. Kobe talking about Leon's father, bringing it up at the press conference, was that too far or wasn't? Now, let's talk about, while you guys ponder on that, maybe share your thoughts. If you want to leave a voicemail, Beta, again, Beta left a good voicemail. We don't hear that often. Shout out to Beta for bringing up some good points. Let's talk about Leon's performance versus Kobe. Let me say this. I see a lot of, it was a boring fight. I see a lot of, it was a boring fight. Leon maybe should have done more. Fight was, or it didn't live up to expectations. And I almost feel like people are blaming Leon Edwards instead of Kobe. And I want to make a comparison that I want to see if you guys agree with. Maybe you guys don't. Leon Edwards reminds me of Adesanya. If you apply pressure and if you press forward, it'll become an interesting fight. If you don't, it could potentially be a boring fight. Adesanya Romero is probably one of the best examples. Maybe Adesanya Cannonier or Whitaker, that third fight, which was pretty decent, and I think because of Whitaker. Edwards is a counterpuncher, a precise striker, but he could put on a quote-unquote boring performance. I don't think that's his fault, though. I think we got to give some blame to Colby Covington. Colby Covington had to go out there, and you know the saying, if you want to be the champ, you have to beat the champ. He didn't apply pressure. I thought Leon did exactly what he had to do to win. Would I have liked to see more from Leon? Yes. But people forget, he's the one that went for a triangle finish, armbar finish. He's the one that landed a head kick partially and stunned Colby for a bit, arguably. Colby didn't do anything besides get a takedown in the 5th round, hold him down, and try to get ground and pound when you're behind on the scorecards. Colby Covington has to be criticized as well, too. And what people forget is that Colby, yes, he's entertaining behind the scenes. He's entertaining at the press conference, but I don't know why people haven't mentioned, I feel like, enough. Colby Covington is a boring fighter. I would rather see a Leon fight than a Colby Covington fight. Now, Colby Covington is way better in the press conference, in the trash talking, in the selling and promotion of a fight, even if he does say despicable things. But let's be honest. Colby Covington in the octagon is a boring fighter. Nobody's bringing that up. And if he doesn't have the cardio, he doesn't really have anything else to offer. His striking is not the best. He doesn't have much power in his hands. He's small for 170. He's not the fighter that, people think that he's just this great, well-rounded fighter. He has cardio. He tries to take you down. He ground and pounds you. Against RDA, it wasn't the most entertaining fight. Against Tyron Woodley, wasn't the most entertaining fight. Against Masvidal, the same thing. I think people forget because he does so much prior to the fight, but in the octagon, even if he was a champion, yes, it would have been entertaining for him to trash talk Belal Muhammad in a lead up to a title fight. But he's not the most entertaining fighter as well either. And if you match up Leon against good fighters, I think you get entertaining fights. And I think we're going to get that against Belal. And I think if it's Shavkat versus Leon is an entertaining fight as well too. And this is where I go on my rant a little bit. I think Leon is a good champion. Not because he beat Colby Covington. I think skill-wise, and people overlook this because people are so entertained by the Hollywood of it all, by the selling of a fight. Shout out to Hollywood Hito. People are so entertained by the press conference and all that. But let's talk about Leon's skill. I think he matches up well against Belal Muhammad. I think he beats him. I think he matches up well against Shavkat, and it could be a debatable fight. I wouldn't disregard or I wouldn't neglect that that's a winnable fight for Shavkat. But at the end of the day, as far as a martial artist, Leon is pretty damn good. And we got to start talking about, he beats Belal, he beats Shavkat. I'm not trying to be controversial on purpose. And I think a big reason why he's not mentioned as far as being one of the best when it's all said and done is because he doesn't sell fights. But listen, he beats Belal. Next fight, he passes GSP if he wins his next fight, I believe. You guys could correct me if I'm wrong. If he wins his next fight, his next title fight, he passes GSP for most consecutive wins in the welterweight division. He beats Shavkat or Belal, whoever that might be. Or if he beats them both. Is he the welterweight GOAT? Is he the best of all time in the division? Because people were saying that if Usman beat Leon, he would have been the welterweight GOAT. I thought it was a little bit premeditated. Leon gets a head kick, then Leon beats him. So Leon got 2 wins over Usman. Leon got a win over Colby, where those fights were debatable against Usman. Leon had a clear win. Granted, that might have not been the same Covington, but he beats Belal. He beats Shavkat. Where does Leon stand as far as greatest welterweights of all time? Is he number 1?
You need people. You need people like me so you can point your fingers.
You guys tell me. I don't know why that was freezing like crazy, but you guys tell me. And let me be a little bit, just a tiny bit more transparent. I was a little bit scared to mention this prior to the Colby Covington fight. Maybe I was a little bit worried that Leon would lose if Colby was able to take the fight to the ground and make it a boring fight. And I don't know what it is, and maybe you guys could be my therapist, my counselor. I know Leon isn't the most entertaining outside of the octagon, but I would say, and you guys heard it here first, and maybe we delete the VOD after this, because I try to stay as unbiased as possible while I cover these fights. Leon, to me, is my favorite fighter in the UFC, or at least one of my favorites. I like Pereira a lot, too. I like Piotr Jan, even though he's on a skid, as crazy as that might sound. But Leon is probably my favorite fighter because he does everything well in the octagon, and I think he's a tough fighter to beat He dominated Usman in that third fight. He dominated Colby Covington. And I think if you put him against good fighters, he's going to put on a good performance. I like him as a martial artist. And listen, we got to start talking about where we put him on in the rankings. Let's catch up with chat. Them Jamaican Brits are nasty with it, says Big Vince. Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily true with the whole thing that Colby Covington was exclaiming, so I guess I would have to look that up. I wouldn't necessarily call Covington washed, says Tehran. I mean, he did have a long layoff, could have been ring rust. His last win was March 22 against Masvidal. Yeah, over 600 days is crazy. Teron Brown, true. Colby went out and did his best Tyron Woodley impersonation, says Big Vince. Tool says American wrestling needs to bring back subs like the old catch wrestling style. Dagestanis will always beat us in MMA if we don't teach subs. Yeah, Colby Covington, that was another criticism that I had of Colby as well too. People talk high about Colby, but what does Colby do even if he does take you down? He doesn't have the submissions to follow. And that's kind of frustrating to watch. If Islam Makhachev takes you down, you're worried about a submission. You're not worried about that against Colby. Eddie says, yeah, I was honestly lost in the sauce, but after Saturday, I can admit Colby is huff. Yeah, listen, he talks a good game, but I just don't think he's as good as people thought. Us as MMA fans are quick to call someone washed like Colby. Last win before fighting Edwards was against Masvidal, and with that quite impressively, so I don't think it's fair to call the guy washed. I think he might be washed because of the age. He's already almost 36. He has too much layoff time, and that cardio might not always be there like it once was, or might not be there anymore. I guess we'll have to find out in his next fight and who he gets next. And we didn't even mention this guy, out of all people, is calling out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. It's just depressing at this point what his career has been coming to. Tool says maybe Usman's reign was as long as it was because he didn't face Leon sooner. It's a great point as well too. Leon deserved that title fight a long time ago, and Leon was lapping the division until he had to fight Leon. Big Vin says, I just never thought I would see him go out and look so damn passive. Bro is usually so aggressive with pushing the pace. And that's a question I want to ask you guys as well too. Leon's argument of why Colby was so passive and what Leon had to say, you guys could tell me if you guys agree. The reason why Colby was that passive is because Leon was switching stances. According to Leon, he was switching stances. He was measuring the distance. He was making him pay. And he believes in his mind that threw off Colby, and Colby Covington didn't know how to react. Do you guys think that's true? Do you guys think that holds any kind of weight? Because I would say maybe he has a point. What if Leon was good enough to kind of slow down Colby Covington? Or was that just a lousy, lazy Colby? I guess could be debated. Big Vin says, Leon isn't there yet, bro. It's just recency bias. I was talking pretty highly of him prior to the Usman fight. Just throwing that out there. Remember when people was talking about Aljo being in the same conversation, and now he can't even get into a goddamn pay-per-view event? Man, did you guys hear about Aljamain Sterling? That he was neglected to get in the arena, at the T-Mobile Arena. That his tickets were denied. Aljamain is down bad, man. He can't even fight at the 135 division to maybe get a title shot again. I'm not saying he was forced to move up because I think he was getting heavy for the division anyways, but it just seems like Aljo is not in the good graces of the UFC, and I honestly don't know what you do next with Aljo, which is pretty crazy. Washed is Tony Ferguson. Colby hasn't fallen off that bad. That's fair. And what do you do with Colby next? Who do you give? I'm pretty sure you don't give him Stephen Wonderboy Thompson next. Unless Wonderboy wants that fight. But we're talking about Leon and who he should fight next. Who the hell does Colby Covington fight next? Who do you like for him? I think the Shavkat fight wouldn't be bad. And then you give Leon Bilal. But I got a strange feeling that Colby is ducking Shavkat. He doesn't want that smoke. He says that fight makes no sense. Listen, you just lost. Shavkat just won. You're number 3. Shavkat is number 5. That fight should happen next. Covington versus Burns wouldn't be the worst either as well too. But I like the Rachmaninoff and I like the Covington fight, but I honestly genuinely think that Covington doesn't take that fight. Colby was passive by his athletic attributes, speed, and most importantly, his skill. Look how fast he is on the pads. Listen, he just looked. He didn't look himself. Maybe that is credit to Leon. Maybe it's Father Time slowly catching up to Leon, to Colby Covington. It could be one or the other. Let Kobe fight the winner of Cut Gary and Jeff Neal, says Big Vince. Now, if Kobe loses his next 2 fights, then we can have a conversation about him being washed. Leroy in the building. He says, Middle DC, another effort. Listen, Leroy, thank you for always coming through, always showing up. You always show a ton of support. How you doing, Leroy? That presser would be legendary. Kobe and Ian Gary, if that's the case, or Kobe Gilbert. I don't think Kobe Shavkat is what you were mentioning, because that wouldn't be the most entertaining. Thank you guys for the ongoing support, man. Thank you guys for helping grow this channel. It's truly appreciated. We're almost an hour in the live stream. If you guys have anything you guys want to focus on as far as before we end the stream, please let me know. Any questions, ask in chat before we get out of here tonight. Just a quick few messages while the messages come. A quick few what's the word I'm looking for? Quick few reminders before we get to the messages. I had the craziest brain fog. Trey Melton will be here at 7 p.m. tonight. We'll be accepting live callers. You guys can have a good back and forth with him. You guys remember he was talking heavy about how Kobe was going to win, how he was going to be America's champ. I tried to call him that day, live stream after UFC 296. He wouldn't answer, but he will be here tonight. If you guys want to have a good back and forth with him, feel free to show up. Also as well too, consider becoming a member. Helps me out massively. You guys honestly helped me go from 5 days of work to 4 days of work, so I can focus more on content. We're coming out with a video almost every day, and that's thanks to your guys' support, and I'm going to keep on trying to keep that pace. So thank you guys for the ongoing support. Consider becoming a member. 7 p.m. Trey Melton, and we'll be getting off soon, so any questions, please feel free to ask before we get out of here. Let's catch up. Brother, Kobe, old guy now, brother. Lots of damage. I don't know why I read that in like Khabib's voice. Maybe because of the way that your sentence structure in that comment. But yes, Kobe might be getting out of there soon, or just might not be the best. Tehran, I forgot you also mentioned UFC 299. I'll try to speak on that a bit before we get out of here. Speaking of Aljo Sterling, he's a featherweight now. He announced it on his YouTube. Yep, I watch his content quite often. I actually like Aljamain Sterling. I've become a fan, as crazy as that might sound. I don't know if it's a thing where Hito makes fun of me. He says I like the most boring fighters, Sterling, Leon, but I don't know. I like, and that's what I meant to mention earlier. I like the underdog fighters. I know Leon isn't the best speaker, but I think he's a genuinely decent person that just cares about fighting. He opened the restaurant for his mom and all that. Listen, I'm a fan. I like him as a fighter. I think it's not his fault that he's just not the best socially, but he's a good fighter, and I want to see him succeed. I can't lie. He said he wants to make his featherweight debut against Max Holloway. I don't think that is a bad fight. I don't think he's gonna get that fight though. They might still give him just Calvin Kattar. And I think he mentioned that it doesn't look like the Holloway fight is gonna happen. I think he's mentioned that on his own YouTube, so we'll see. In all honesty, John Jones should never talk about morality. We did mention that earlier. And if he's saying that Kobe Covington is scummy, then geez, right? Leroy in the building. That's a good match. Holloway versus Aljo. That's a fight that I would love to see. And I think Sterling deserves that. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Terrible fight for Aljo. Max destroys him round 1. Good point. That could potentially be the case. That could potentially be the outcome. But I will say, Leroy, he is a champ, a former champ, defended his title a few times. If he wants to test himself in the featherweight division and try to fight for a title, and if that's the first fight he wants, I believe he deserves it for everything he's done at the 135 division. Maybe it was a little bit weird with his whole Marab relationship, and there were arguments that they would never fight each other, but he has said himself, like, that fight was never offered in the first place. And if it was, maybe they would have that conversation. With all that being said, I commend him for wanting to fight the toughest fight in the division in Max Holloway, and throw him in the fire, see what happens. Stylistically, that might be a tough fight for him. Tough to say, but I don't understand where Aljo gets so much hate from. Dude has fought damn near everyone and bounced back from losses several times. I've become a fan. I think the biggest reason of why he has so many haters is the whole thing with Piotr Jan and the disqualification. People just couldn't stomach or forgive him for taking pictures behind the scenes with the title. And I don't think he did the best, or he made the best decisions or statements after he was criticized. He tried to be the villain a little bit. I thought he wasn't himself. because now he's himself. You see the way he talks about fighting in his career genuinely, and I think he's grown his fan base. Or in my opinion, Josh Emmett versus Aljo, bro. I like that fight too. I like that fight a lot, man. I wouldn't mind that at all. Emmett coming off an impressive win against Mitchell. Why not? UFC 299 real quick. We know it's Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera, and I just didn't want to forget that Tehran mentioned that earlier. Let me quickly say, Sean O'Malley, Marlon Vera, great main event fight at 135 for the title. Does Marlon Vera deserve it? I mean, after that win versus Pedro Munoz, that was debatable. Maybe not so much. There's other fighters out there that potentially deserve it before Chito Vera. Marab. Cejudo wouldn't have been the worst. Corey Sandhagen is another potential fighter that should have got the shot. But all that being said, Marlon Vera beat him once, so maybe that's part of the reason. Let me also say this, guys. I wouldn't be surprised if Vera beats Sean O'Malley. I know it sounds crazy, but just throwing that out there. I wouldn't be surprised. He beat him once before. Granted, he hit the perennial nerve. I made a video this year that Marlon Vera will be champ by the end of 2023, but he doesn't get the fight. But maybe he will be champ by the beginning of 2024. We shall see. I got to make a full a final prediction on that video as well too. Or Aljo can fight. Brian Ortega is another good one too. That's another who mentioned that? Teron Brown. Yes, that's a nice one as well. I don't know what's going on with T-City. Aljo was always a natural 145-pound fighter. Yeah, for him to drain himself for this long is crazy. He walks around at 175. I think he even said north of that as well, too, like 180. Most featherweights walk around at 170, says Teron Brown. Leroy says O'Malley outsized him. He looked pretty massive against Marlon. If I'm getting my ass whooped by Jan and he needs me illegally, I'm taking that DQ win too. Remember what Chael said about the John Jones fight when he broke his toe? Listen, he did play it off. Was he actually really hurt in there? He did have to have neck surgery and all that. So listen, it will always be debatable, I guess. Cheeto getting that Kobe treatment. Credit to him. He kind of made himself a fighter that people want to see him fight Sean O'Malley. He's gotten under the skin of O'Malley enough where O'Malley wants that get back. He wants to see if he could prove that the first fight was a fluke. So Marlon Vera is a lucky man because after that, he didn't look great. His fight versus Pedro Munoz wasn't the most impressive. If anything, it was debatable. And he looked pretty damn horrible against Corey Sandhagen. So he hasn't looked the best. Now, the knockout versus Dominic Cruz was impressive. The punishment that he gave Rafont was good. The knockout versus Frankie Edgar. Marlon Vera was being seen as that guy that, you know, maybe he's losing the beginning of the fight, but he's going to catch you and catch you eventually. And he has done that. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with in that fight with Sean O'Malley, but I quickly wanted to mention that. And there are a couple other good fights as well, too, on UFC 299 that maybe we could cover some other day. We've been live for an hour and 3 minutes. Masvidal coming out of retirement to fight Leon. Let's quickly play with the idea. You guys might hate my take, but at least you guys know, number one, unbiased commentary channel on YouTube. We do the best with our commentary. We might have some biased opinions when it comes to our thoughts on what should happen next and the fighters that we like and the fighters that we dislike. With all that being said, let's quickly play with this hypothetical that you guys might hate. Let's say, because Colby didn't deserve the shot in the first place. Let's say Masvidal says, you know what? And it's so cheesy because I could see him saying these exact two words. Unfinished business. Do I take Masvidal serious? No. But what if he says these two words? Unfinished business. I gave him a 3-piece and a soda outside of the octagon. He was scared to fight me. I'll come back if they give me Leon. Would you guys be mad? Would you guys hate it? Would you guys love it? There might be some weird ones that love it out there. If Masvidal gets the title shot, you can say Masvidal didn't really deserve it against Usman and he got it. I'm thinking about it in like live right now. and it almost sounds a bit disgusting, but if the UFC were to, let's say next week, say, you know what, Masvidal is coming out of retirement, there's unfinished business, let's settle this in the octagon. Leon at this point maybe deserves a payday. Masvidal doesn't deserve it at all, but they have the prior beef. I wouldn't be that mad. Is that doing Bilal dirty? Yes. Maybe, but maybe you give Bilal Covington and maybe he's not that opposed to that fight. Maybe you put that as a co-main. Bilal Covington, main event, Leon Masvidal. It's a little weird. I almost feel a bit ashamed to say this out loud. And I know that's a crazy hypothetical, but I don't mind it. You guys let me know how you guys feel about that. Everybody getting a title shot but Bilal, says Big Vince. Listen, I know, but in Leon's defense, Leon himself said, hey, Leon himself said, I fought 10 times. I was on a 10-fight win streak. I didn't get a title shot. What makes Bilal think he deserves a title shot? Granted, if you win 10 fights, maybe you should get a title shot. But Leon Edwards has a point. How many fights was it that Leon won before getting the title shot? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fight. His 10th fight in a row is where he got the title shot. So maybe Leon was a little bit not correct in his statement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In his 10th fight, he got the title shot. Bilal does deserve it. I'm almost proving myself wrong in person right now. But listen, Bilal deserves it, but I wouldn't be that mad. I'll be honest. If Masvidal, for some reason, unfinished business, 3-piece and a soda, he'll come back for this one fight. I almost feel ashamed to say it, but I wouldn't be necessarily the most mad. And imagine that was at UFC 300, like Hito just mentioned in chat. Let's catch up with chat before we get out of here. Everybody getting a title shot, but Bilal is hilarious. Big Vince. I get you, but maybe I'll make a video on what if Masvidal gets the title shot next. You guys like that idea for a video? Please let me know if you guys do, so then I'll make it. But that might be a disgusting take, but it'll get clicks. And hey, we're here to get views, to get subscribers, and grow the channel. I'm trying to be up there with the Gurus, the Tracys again. We're working hard. Let's go. O'Malley is overrated, man, says Tool. He squeaked by Jan. And he squeaked by Jan. I thought Jan won that fight. I rewatched it live on Twitch. I haven't been live on Twitch in forever, but yes, I agree with you. And the Aljo KO was a quick stoppage. I don't know about quick stoppage. They should have let him keep fighting, though. They were probably punishing Aljo for his style of using the floor to stall and rewarding Sean for dyeing his hair, says Tool. I thought in championship fights, don't let Mark Goddard ref these fights. He did the same thing with Usman versus Colby. He did the same thing. What was another title fight? I think it was Adesanya versus Pereira. I think that was Goddard as well too. But then you have fighters, or you have fights like Bobby Green, where Jalen Turner, where referee gave Bobby Green too many chances. With all that being said, in championship fights, you got to let it go a little bit longer as far as the fight. You're biased, but fair, my brother. I'll be honest. I'll be biased when it comes to opinions, never to the commentary. Masvidal comes back for that title fight. Has Masvidal said anything on Twitter real quick? We might be the first ones to campaign. Where's Masvidal at? Let's settle this. Bro, I feel disgusting trying to promote this fight. Has he said anything? I think this is his channel right here. I hope he's not that active, I guess, on Twitter. Way to go, Masvidal. Way to go, Masvidal. Is this his actual channel? Yes, I believe it is. Let me also go to Instagram real quick. Has he said anything on there? I'm just curious, guys. I'm just curious. Let's see. Has he said anything on there? What was his last post? Damn, this guy's a horrible person as far as like posting, I guess. No. Anything in the story about Leon? No, and no. So there's nothing out there. But listen, I sound horrible. I feel a little bit nasty. I need to go take a shower after this one because I feel like this is like blasphemy to say that. I wouldn't mind seeing Masvidal get the shot, but hey, no way, bro. Jorge versus Masvidal, or I guess you meant Jorge versus Leon, would be a cool 175. Masvidal's second title shot wasn't deserved. Exactly. It wasn't. I'll agree with you. UFC 300 would be crazy. O'Malley beating Cheeto, Masvidal come back would be awesome, even if he gets smashed. Yeah, sells. They have history. Why not? Masvidal, Robbie Lawler, GSP, Matt Serra, Sean Shirk. They don't want anyone but you might see Matt Serra come out of nowhere and get the shot, bro. You never know. Robbie Lawler makes a comeback. That's that's crazy. Get Diaz in there because in a street fight, Nate won Angle stop. I don't know about the Nate Diaz fight. He already won that, even though Leon got stunned at the end when they did fight. If Bilal wants to get a title shot, he better go to PFL because he might not give him that. Bilal gonna put a jihad on you. Yeah, listen, man. If Bilal hates me, it's understandable. I say he deserves a shot. He does. Before anyone, he deserves it. But if Masvidal skips him over, I don't hate it. I love how when it benefits your point, then it's about we're here to give you. I'm being a hypocrite. I'll be honest. Masvidal ain't coming back, but if he does, Tehran. But I'll support it by the. Oh my God, Human. What's up, Human? How you doing today, bro? I saw you comment on the last video. Thank you for doing so. Give it a couple hours. Says Leroy. Men Jorge versus Conor. That's not a bad one either. Conor needs a tune-up fight because he's not beating any. I don't even know if he beats Chandler. I think it's a winnable fight. But listen, guys, we have been live for quite some time. One more time, if you want to consider becoming a member, it helps the channel out immensely. Thank you guys for all the support you guys are. Listen, the growth that this channel has been getting as of recent, overwhelming, humbling. I really feel we have something good going on. I really feel that putting a video out almost every day has really helped this channel exponentially, and I think the future is bright. I'm excited. I'm hyped up. We're gonna keep putting in the work. So thank you. Rocky beats them all anyways. I think. All right. Let's have fun, guys. Let me quickly say one more thing. There's my most recent video about Tony Ferguson and Patty Pimblett. Go watch that. Leave a comment. Leave me this emoji. The emoji with the I don't know what it's called. The salute emoji, the respect emoji. If you leave me that on my previous video, then I know that you're supporting and that you're watching the channel and that you're watching the live streams. Go do that. #1 commentary channel on YouTube. Controversial last statement before we get out of here. 7 p.m. Trey will be here. Feel free to talk trash. He's an idiot. Let's just throw that out there. He's an idiot. I told him that Kobe wouldn't win, but he voted with his heart. He picked with his heart, not his mind. And not that there's much up there in his mind, but nonetheless, I told him, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. 10K subs next. Absolutely big wins. Be here at 7 p.m. Thank you for the ongoing support. Hit the bell for post notifications. Last and final point. Go watch the video, by the way, too. Leave me this thing. Anyways, it doesn't matter who they give Leon next. He beats Bilal. He beats Shavkat. He beats Masvidal. Give Masvidal a shot. I don't care. Leon deserves the payday. But even if it's Shavkat, even if it's Bilal, I think Leon is that good right now that he's unbeatable. I wouldn't even be mad if they allow him to go up and fight for double champ status. I know people hate the double champ thing, but listen, Leon is... Where does he stand in the pound for pound rankings real quick? Hold on 1 second. Right now he's number 4. Put him above Volkanovski now. Maybe put him up above John Jones. Leon is that good. And if he beats Bilal and Shavkat, and I know I'm taking it a little bit far, I'm just having